We need a rabbi. Right.
Good evening and Shabbat Sholom. Nice to see you all here this evening. Everybody comfortable and keeping good social distance? Good. Okay. We begin our service in our prayer book on page 338 as Nicole leads us in Eile Hamdelibi. It's a pleasure to call upon Amber and Saban.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As the brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light. Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'chalik ner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
On page 9, we continue responsibly. There are days when we seek things for ourselves and measure value by what we do not gain.
Shabbat, we seek not to acquire, but to share.
There are days when we exploit nature as if it were a horn of plenty that can never be exhausted.
At Shabbat, we stand in wonder before the mystery of creation.
There are days when we act as if we cared nothing for the rights of others.
At Shabbat, we remember that justice is our duty, a better world our goal.
So we embrace Shabbat, day of rest, day of wonder, day of peace. We offer thanks to God for the Shabbat which unites us in faith and hope. Together, for Shabbat holiness, which inspires sacred living. For Shabbat memories both even in darkness. For Shabbat peace, born of friendship and love. We offer thanks and blessing from God. On the next page, page 12. Come, let us sing joyously to Adonai, raise a shout for our rock and deliverer. Let us come into God's presence with praise. Let us raise a shout for God in song. For Adonai is the great God, the great ruler of all divine beings. Together, in God's hand to the depths of the earth, the peaks of the mountains are God's. God is the sea, God made it, and the land which God's hand fashioned. Come, let us bow down and kneel, bend the knee before Adonai our Maker. For Adonai is our God, and we are the people God tends, the flock in God's care. Oh, if you would but heed God and charge this day. Next page. Sing Adonai a new song, sing Adonai all the earth. Sing Adonai, bless God's name, proclaim God's victory day after day. Tell of God's glory among the nations, God's wondrous deeds among all peoples. For Adonai is great, much acclaimed. God is held in awe by all divine beings. All the gods of the peoples are mere idols, but Adonai made the heavens. Glory and majesty are before God, strength and splendor in God's temple. Together.
Let the sea and all within its heart, the fields and everything in them exult. Then shall all the trees of the forest shout for joy. The presence of Adonai, for God is coming. For God is coming to rule the earth. God will rule the world justly, and his people faithfulness.
Shalom Aleichem, page 24.
Shalom.
silently on page 27. Page 28, please stand. Praise Adonai, whose praise is due forever. Praise Adonai, whose praise is due forever. Top of page 31. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day to night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Amari, Harami. Middle of the next page. Ahavat Olam, everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai, our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves the people of Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu Amo Yisrael. 34. Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever.
וכתבתם, ובזיזו את ביתך ובשעריך. למען תזכרו ותיתן
You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. Take to heart these instructions which I charge you this day. Impress them upon your children. Recite them when you stay at home, when you are away, when you lie down, and when you get up. Bind them as a sign on your hand, and let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Thus you shall remember to observe all my commandments. Be holy, holy God. I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai your God. The top of 39. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go is eternally Egypt, that there's a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, and that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. Together at the middle of page 43. Give us a place to rest out of our God. Bring us into shelter and soft song and shadows of truth. For with you are true protected and safety, and in your presence is acceptance and love. Watch over us as we go forth, prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, haparesh atah aleinu, ve'al amo Yisrael, v'sh'al Top of 45. We are a people in whom the past endures, in whom the present is inconceivable without moments gone by. The Exodus lasted a moment enduring forever. What happened once upon a time happens all the time. Page 46, please stand Page 50. You are forever mighty Adonai, you give life to all. You sustain life through love, giving life to all. Through great compassion, supporting the fallen, healing the sick, freeing the captive, keeping faith with those who stoop to the dust. Who is like you, source of mighty acts? Who resembles you, the sovereign who takes and gives life, causing deliverance to spring up and faithfully giving life to all? Blessed are you, Adonai, who gives life to all. Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh L'Kol. Page 52. Atakadosh, Yoshim Koyom, Hallelujah, Sela, Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. You are holy, your name is holy, and those who are holy praise you every day. Blessed are you, Adonai, the holy God, Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. Please be seated. Next page, 54. You set aside the seventh day for your name, the pinnacle of creation, and you bless it above all other days, more sacred than all festival times. So it is written in your Torah, Vayetula Shemayim v'ha'aretz v'chol tzva'am, v'chalim yom hashvi melato asher asa, v'yishbot v'yom hashvi v'chol melato asher asa, v'rechavim et yom hashvi v'chadesho v'tov, Kibo Shabbat v'chol melato asher v'ra'adoni asa. Top of the next page. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh Shabbat. Top of page 56.
Bi'amacha Yisrael, Utfilatam Bi'amacha Ba'akel, Tihalel, Uti L'Ratzon Tamid, Avodat Yisrael, Mamecha, El Karav, L'chal Karav, Pnei El, Avadecha, L'chanenim, Shefach L'chal, L'lenim, B'shivcha, B'tzion Rachamim, Baruch atah Adonai, Tamatazir, Shechinata, B'tzion.
Page 58. Page 59. God of goodness, together we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so full of beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and more we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, Atoshita L'Chayim. Page 60. Grant abundant peace to Israel, your people forever, for you are the sovereign God of all peace. May it be pleasing to you to bless your people Israel in every season and moment with your peace. Blessed are you, Adonai, who blesses your people Israel with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, v'orech et amo Yisrael b'shalom.
Shabbat
turn our thoughts to those who are ill, those who are healing, those not with us this evening. We include in our thoughts continued prayers for Kenny Elliott, April Foster, Judy Foster, Debbie Weiner. Add to our prayers Arnold Stern and Mary Bennett. Are there others whose names you'd like to keep in our prayers?
We'd like to go.
Mary Wesselberg and Carmen Lewis.
Shabbat, may the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal those who are ill. May the blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for their health to be restored and their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send a complete renewal of body and spirit. And let us say, Amen. Parashat Ki-Teitzei is pretty straightforward in its contents. Laws, laws, and more laws. Indeed, by one reckoning, there are more mitzvot, 74, in this one Torah portion than in any other. First, Moses reviews a wide variety of laws regarding family, animals, and property. Then, various civil and criminal laws are delineated, including those regarding sexual relationships, interaction with non-Israelites, loans, vows, and divorce. Finally, laws of commerce pertaining to loans, fair wages, and proper weights and measures are laid out. Jack will give his own unique take on some of these laws in his bar mitzvah speech tomorrow morning. Tonight, however, I would like to focus on only the first of these. The Torah portion begins, when you, an Israelite warrior, take the field against your enemies, and the eternal your God delivers them into your power, and you take some of them captive, and you see among the captives a beautiful woman, and you desire her and take her to wife. You shall bring her into your house, and she shall trim her hair, pare her nails, and discard her captive's garb. She shall spend a month's time in your house, lamenting her father and mother. After that you may come to her, and thus become her husband, and she shall be your wife. Then, should you no longer want her, you must release her outright. You must not sell her for money, since you had your will of her, you must not enslave her. My dear friends, these verses are best understood in context, as so many things, biblical and otherwise, usually are. And in the biblical context, these are really quite remarkable verses. If anything deserves the label progressive, truly it is these verses, because they mark a true advance in human civilization. For most of human history, even up to World War II, wartime victory has been characterized by lawlessness and revenge. To the victor goes the spoils, as the saying goes. And this usually included both women and treasure, rape and pillage. But then along comes this biblical passage warning against just such behavior. Yes, the victor was entitled to the woman of his choice, but it was not something granted carte blanche. In an early expression of what today we might call female empowerment, a captive woman was accorded an opportunity first to grieve and to mourn. Only then could her male captor come to her, and if she rejected him, he was required to set her free and not sell her as his own property to the next highest bidder. I don't know how rigorously this commandment was observed and carried out, but even in the breach, this mitzvah would be a remarkable show of progress. It also occurs to me that in addition to being a form of female empowerment, it is a cautionary against something else, a much more common form of human behavior and something hardly limited to wartime: bullying. I say this because the historic treatment of women during wartime and victory is little more than bullying writ large, and bullying of the worst type, which isn't to say that there are better or worse types of bullying. In any of its forms, bullying is bad. And regrettably, because it is so commonplace, I'm not sure we've made many advances in that regard. Indeed, technology has probably only made it worse by making it easier and by introducing new forms of it, what has been labeled cyberbullying. We probably all have a general idea of what we mean by bullying. Wikipedia defines it thusly: bullying is the use of force, coercion, or threat to abuse, aggressively dominate, or intimidate. The behavior is often repeated and habitual. One essential prerequisite is the perception of an imbalance of physical or social power. This imbalance distinguishes bullying from conflict. Bullying is a subcategory of aggressive behavior characterized by the following three minimum criteria: hostile intent, imbalance of power, and repetition over a period of time. Bullying is the activity of repeated aggressive behavior intended to hurt another individual physically, mentally, or emotionally. We probably most often associate bullying with children and young people, the so-called schoolyard bully, and to a certain extent that still holds true. I remember reading several times over the past couple of years that the incidence of bullying in Israel is showing a worrisome increase. This from a 2012 essay, and I'm not sure the problem has improved appreciably. A short piece in Haaretz this week called "Democracy in Sixth Grade" gripped my heart unexpectedly. During my 14 years in Israel, one of the most troubling experiences has been the rage ignited by routine interpersonal relations. I'm not talking about the famously charming Israeli directness, but about the deep dismissal of human dignity that occurs when everyday experiences inevitably involve aggression and brute force. No one seems to celebrate or even seek the beauty and wonder of our fellow human beings. I find myself wondering if we even know they exist. Sometimes I fear that all traces of Martin Buber in Israel 2012 are gone. Over the years, I theorized that the awful dismissal of fellow human beings, Palestinians, Arabs, Russians, Ethiopians, women, and the guy driving in the next lane or standing behind you online, emerged from psychological scarring of combat, war, and terror. This article made me shiver to realize that we are preparing our children for those experiences by installing the scars upon setup, like a computer program, that the source and the consequences have become fused and confused. Ofer Rudman's article shows how seminal the rage is. I've translated large excerpts here. Quote, "This week my son got a lesson in politics. For years, a small group of boys in his class has reigned over the class with an agenda of terror and fear. They change the rules of the game to suit themselves. They taunt and humiliate anyone who doesn't bow to their rule. If they want to make it clear, they make it clear to a child exactly how poorly they think of him by calling him a stinking Arab or Filipino maid. I've appealed to the principal and to the staff, but they've been unable to handle the problem. My son, by the way, manages pretty well, but one girl, a gifted girl who writes poetry, has become the victim of this group. This week, the boys harangued her with humiliating words. The girl remained silent, but they continued under the teacher's eye. The peals of laughter from their friends, they took turns kicking the girl's school bag, one after the other. It was during an art class. The kids were just finding creative means of expression. Finally, the child lashed out and jumped one of them. Only when a real fight ensued did the teacher free up to separate them. accidentally suffering a blow from one of the boys. The next day, both the boy and the girl were suspended, both, and that was considered a sufficient response to the incident. Here the author moved into an understated but painfully clear political allegory. There was no response to the boys who initiated abuse at all. That's how my son got a lesson in politics in 6th grade. In the name of fairness, balance, and the desire to show an unambiguous message against violence, the two children were treated equally. Moreover, during the inquiry into the incident, which was left to a substitute teacher, one brave girl stood up for the battered girl. Most of the children refused to confirm her testimony. Some said she was a traitor and crazy. And the teacher chose not to make it an issue. He wanted democracy, right? The majority decides. My son also stood up and took the side of the two girls. He told the teacher that the majority was keeping silent out of fear, but the majority maintained its silence, and with that, the meeting ended. Either way, by the end of the day, the girl who suffered this abuse was suspended from school. Is anything else needed to teach our children how democratic values risk being exploited by those who destroy it? This may happen in other countries too, but I live here and I suffer the consequences every day. My stomach sank when the story began to sound familiar, and then it dawned on me. It was familiar because I had already heard pieces of the incident. In fact, I know the little girl in the article. She is wonderful, smart, funny, loving, affectionate, and sensitive. The source of her rage should have been addressed long before it got to this point. Otherwise, our society will remain filled with two camps: the thugs and the masses, cowed into silence in the face of screaming injustice. And we will continue to dull our senses with the self-deception that must be employed to bear the weight of such wrongs. Bullying is by no means unique to Israel, though we Jews may be more concerned by it since we like to think of ourselves historically more as the bullied than as the bullies. I stumbled across an article, I can't vouch for its scientific accuracy, ranking the 11 worst countries for bullying. They range from the Slovak Republic at 11th place to Luxembourg at 9th, to Canada at 6th, to Belgium at 4th, Russia at 3rd, and Austria at 1. The United States and Israel didn't even make the list. Of course, that's not to say the U.S. doesn't have its own problem with bullying. A 2018 study referring to it as the 21st century disease reports that around 75% of school shootings have been linked to bullying and harassment, and 160,000 children skip classes each day because of fears of being bullied. More than 40% of children have been bullied online, some of them even being threatened, and 60% report that somebody said something mean to them online. More than 50% of LGBTQ youth are constantly bullied online. Some 46% of males and 26% of females have been victims of physical bullying. Nearly 75% of students have been or been witness to any form of bullying, but only 25% of bullied youngsters notify an adult. And that doesn't even reach into the story of Harvey Weinstein and his ilk. The number of theories that have been advanced to explain bullying are legion, ranging from levels of anger and aggression in society to examples of bullying at home, to bullies having themselves been victims of bullying, to personal insecurity, to the simple desire to dominate. But it is not a form of behavior strictly limited to children and adolescents. Domestic violence, perhaps even rape, should probably be understood as an extreme form of bullying. Currently, there are those who would make a convincing case that the man in the White House has set an example and created a climate, and there are others who would make an equally convincing case that today's mainstream media, corporate heads, and so-called talking heads have also begun to drink deeply from the same wells. They could both be right. You may recall that several weeks ago I made mention of the Philadelphia statement. I quoted part. Social media mobs, cancel culture, campus speak policing. These are all part of life in today's America. Freedom of expression is in crisis. Truly open discourse, the debates and change of ideas and arguments on which the health and flourishing of a democratic republic crucially depend is increasingly rare. Ideologues demonize opponents to block debates on important issues, and and to silence people with whom they disagree. Common decency and free speech are being dismantled through the stigmatizing practice of blacklisting ideological opponents, which has taken on the conspicuous form of hate labeling. Responsible organizations are castigated as hate groups. Honest people of good faith are branded hate agents. Even mainstream ideas are marginalized as hate speech. Blacklisting is spreading. Corporations are enacting hate speech policies to protect people from wrong and harmful content. Similarly, colleges and universities are imposing speech regulations to make students, quote, safe, not from physical harm, but from the challenges to campus orthodoxy. Some individuals have taken exception to the statement because of who some of the signatories are, and that is certainly their right. But to the extent that the statement is accurate and correct, then certainly these are all variant forms of 21st century bullying. As of this writing, 10,546 individuals have seen it as such and signed the statement. Either way, in whatever form it takes, whoever becomes the target, I think we can all agree that bullying is wrong and that the problem is growing, made easier by the internet and perhaps aggravated by our pandemic-related worries and isolation and our political polarization. My friends, the Torah portion ends on a curious note. It is a reminder about the biggest granddaddy biblical bully of them all. His name was Amalek, and he is remembered for having attacked the Israelites soon after their exodus from Egypt. They were already in a weakened state when he attacked them from the rear, the biblical equivalent of kicking a man when he's down, as it happened, something we only recently saw in Minneapolis in the form of police bullying, to enormous outrage from everyone. The Torah gives us its final word on the subject when it declares, blot out the name of Amalek, do not forget. In other words, blot out all forms of bullying. Do not forget that you, too, have been a victim of bullies. May that memory be sharp and clear in us, whether we are in a schoolyard, in cyberspace, or merely in a heated debate with friends. King be God's Son, may this be God's will, as we say. And on a cheerier note, we turn to pages 4 and 5 to sing of our Shabbat joy and make a blessing of the wine. Okay.
The seventh day is consecrated to the Lord our God. With wine, our symbol of joy, we celebrate this day in its holiness. We give thanks for all of our blessings, for life and health, for work and rest, for home and love and friendship. On Shabbat, eternal sign of creation, remember that we are created in the divine image. We therefore raise the cup in thanksgiving. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kirshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzah lanu b'shabbat kodesh v'yavra u'v'rasan kinkilanu zikaron ma'aseh bereshit. Kikul yom tchila l'migra'ei kodesh zecher tziyat mitzrayim kilanu b'charta v'yotanu kadashta mikol Shabbat koshcha v'yava u'rasa kinchaltan Baruch atah Adonai mikadesh ha'shabbat.
That'll change by the time we get to college. Beautiful Kiddush cup. Is that from our own sister at the Temple of Judaica shop downstairs? The best for your room, by the sisterhood. All right. We return now to our prayer books for the Aleinu as we page 283. Please stand. Let us adore the ever-living God, and render praise unto you, who stretched out the heavens and established the earth, whose glory is revealed in the heavens above, and whose greatness is manifest throughout the world. You are our God, there is none else. On this Shabbat, our hearts go out to the families of Thomas Brunner, Zachary Lowenstein, Eugene Oden, Louis Wall, Horace Brodsky, Daniel Carlin, Beryl Archmont, and John O. Spence, taken from us over the course of this past year. And from across the years, we recall the names of Doris Abramowitz, Tofig Archmont, Max Berwin, Richard S. Cohen, Lester A. Fishman, Helen A. Friedman, Sarah Seidler Gordon, L. Frank Herman, Rebecca Hess, Ezra Stanton Hurwich, Sidney Cobran, Charles S. Lang, Stephen Lewis Sr., Samuel Litvak, Jesse Long, Jerome Routman, Carol Levine Rubenstein, Emmanuel Salzenstein, Louis J. Samuels, Sadie Seidman, Faye W. Silver, Bonnie Wagner, and Maxine W. Weiner, the yards out of whose passing takes place at this season of the year. Zichronam Livracha, may they remember to be for blessing. As together we now stand for Warner's Cottage, which we found on page 200. Yitkadal, Shemer Allah, Yomad Ibrah, Hirite, Yamlet Malkute, B'chaye Kod, Yomei Kod, B'chaye, B'chol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agalah, Yizman Karim, Yibru Amen, Yehei Shemer Avanu Barach, Le'olam U'amei Maya, Yiparach, V'yishtabach, V'yipa'ar, V'yikramam, V'naseh, V'yihadar, V'yihaleh, V'yihalal, Shemei, V'yishab, V'yishud, Le'elam Minkol, V'yirchata, V'shirata, Tushmechata, V'nechamata, V'amiram, V'olam, V'yibru Amen, Hey, Shalom Rabba, Shemayim, Chaim, Aleinu, Elko Yisrael, Amen. Oseh Shalom, Emrama, B'yaseh Shalom, Aleinu, Elko Yisrael, Amen. May the source of peace and peace to those who mourn and comfort all who are grieving. As together we say, Amen. Please be seated. Really on the back portion of your programs, upcoming events, kind of a slow time of the year, but we'll be revving things back up come September. Our Salichot service on September 12th at 9 o'clock. That one will be conducted by Zoom, so please let me know if you plan to attend, and we'll give you the entry code and all that business. High Holy Days also, plans are coming up, and new ideas will be unveiled to the congregation very shortly on how to break a fast during a pandemic. More details about that soon. Service tomorrow morning for Jack and his family is at 10 o'clock, correct? Immediately following service, there's no oneg this evening, but you can greet each other and wish each other Shabbat, Shalom outside as you head outside the sanctuary into the wilting heat. Our closing song, page 322, with thanks to our choir director and organist, Nicole DiGiorno. Ein Kelohim, page 322. The Lord will grant strength unto his people. The Lord will grant peace and peace of mind to his people and all the people of the world, we pray.